All right, hello and welcome to this episode of Constructive Conversations. This is the podcast where we explore mindset and actionable approaches that empower entrepreneurs to achieve success in all areas of life and inspire others with the confidence to chase their own big dreams. The reason why I do this podcast is because 10 years ago, I knew I wanted to start my own business, but I had no idea where to start, no role models or resources. So the idea is to provide that inspiration for new entrepreneurs and to provide fuel for those who are already doing it. Joining us today is Mark Wormgoor. He has over 25 years of experience in tech and has now launched his own companies, Tairi and the Maverick CTO, where he provides leadership training to CTOs of other companies. So today on the podcast with Mark, we talk about creating successful startups, learning marketing and sales as a new entrepreneur, how to attract an ideal client, transitioning from technician to project management, to leadership, making the entrepreneurial leap. We also talked about how a company can successfully ride the exponential wave of technology, how CTOs can become proactive, create change, and how to develop the human skills required to create real success within a company. There's so many great topics here. You're going to want to listen right to the end of this episode. So, Mark, it's great to have you on. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, great. Can you elaborate a little bit on what you do? And what your company looks like today?
Sure. What I do today, it's actually two different things. So Tairi, as you said, is we do software development. So we have a small team of software developers in the Philippines, and we do mostly web mobile software development, and we do that for startups. So that's one thing that we do. And the other one, and that's more my personal passion, I do a lot of coaching for CTOs, people that are in tech leadership position. I've been in tech, like you said, my whole working life, 25 plus years, 28 years. And I just love sharing that experience and coaching younger people that are in a leadership position in tech. And that could be in startups or in corporates. And that's really what I enjoy doing most.
That's great. And so you have a lot of experience from corporate, and then you made the switch over to, the entrepreneurial journey, right?
Yeah. So I started my journey in consultancy. I spent a long time in consultancy doing different projects. I joined Accenture for a long time. And then in my corporate career, I got the chance to do a very senior leadership position for JDE, Jacobs Douwe Egberts. It's a coffee and tea company. It's now listed as JDE Peet's. So it includes Peet's in the US. I think it's in the US. I don't know if it's in Canada as well. And I was the head of IT operations. So I had a big global team that went all the way from Brazil to a lot of Europe, to Asia, to Australia, that did all the tech operations. And there was infrastructure, applications, networks, data centers, service desk, everything. That was a lot of fun. I did that job for 6 years. And at the end of that, I really wasn't sure what to do next. And that's how I went into the entrepreneurship journey and actually decided to leave my whole corporate experience behind and to start my own company.
That's great. And what was it like making that transition from corporate to entrepreneur?
It's been a very interesting journey. So I'm in tech, and it's very easy in tech to just go and do consultancy, freelancing, and find a freelance job and just sell my time. That's not what I wanted to do. So I didn't want to sell my time, just send invoices for my time. So instead, I actually wanted to build something. And at the beginning, I had no idea what that actually was. So the first thing that I tried, we actually built a small startup. I did that with somebody that I met. We built a startup together, and that went absolutely nowhere. So we built this really cool product for freelancers to go and market themselves, a platform where they could market their skills. Actually, I thought it was a cool idea. We launched it quite well, but the marketing, we didn't sell anyone. So we got to about 30 users, never made €1. I learned so much there, never went anywhere. So I think that was the first one. After that, I did start Tairi. And I think my biggest challenge, I have a lot of leadership experience. I know finance, I know building a team, I know hiring people, I know tech. All that stuff I've done for 25 years. Sales and marketing, getting new customers is completely new to me. So I've been really focusing on that, and I've learned a lot. I've made a lot of mistakes over the past years. I've learned a lot. And I think that's the interesting part, where you come from a corporate background. That's not marketing and sales. Mine was in tech, and you start your own company, and suddenly you need to go and acquire customers. And that's been a lot of fun, and I made a lot of mistakes there. And I think I'm finally now on the right path to getting that done. To talk more about how I started with cold outreach. I found this company in Eastern Europe They did the cold outreach for me, and they actually did that from my LinkedIn account. So from my LinkedIn account, they would go and approach companies, CEOs, startups around the Netherlands, Belgium, Luxembourg, and they would send messages under my accounts. And that felt very cringy. It didn't feel like me. It felt very salesy. And it came from my name, my LinkedIn account. That really didn't feel right. Still, I did that for probably 6, 7, 8 months. And I did get a few customers. So actually it did work. It just didn't feel right to me. I changed that afterwards. So the second thing that I tried after that was still LinkedIn, but it was a far more networking type approach where I would reach out to people and actually, instead of just immediately going for the sale, I would just try to meet them, try to network, meet new people, and just see if anyone is interested. It's an interesting approach. It felt a lot more like me, what I'm like, and it felt better for me as a person. It got me a lot of calls. So I literally had like 5 or 6 calls a week with people that could be in my ideal customer profile, but it led to almost no sales. So it cost me a lot of time. I did a lot of sales, or I did a lot of meetings. I got to meet a lot of new people, which was really cool. But in terms of revenue, yeah, it didn't really get me anywhere. So, and that's where I've switched to the current approach, where I just share a lot of my experience, a lot of my knowledge on LinkedIn, a lot of the stuff that I find interesting on LinkedIn and Instagram. And that's, yeah, instead of me selling to people, actually sharing my knowledge, and by that way attracting people and the people that I like to work with. So I like that approach. But it's been a journey, and there are so many hurdles that I've had to get over in the process. But it's been interesting.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing that, because like you said, that's that's the gap, is the sales and marketing that you don't get from corporate. So yeah, that's really interesting. That's the path and the learning lessons that you had to go through. So you just mentioned sort of, you can attract the people that you like to work with. So what does that look like? Like, who's your typical or your ideal customer that you work with?
So the ideal person that I like to work with, I have a program. It's called Maverick CTO, and it's called the Maverick for a reason. So I really like working with people that want to be bold and do bold things. So if people are comfortable where they are today, I mean, they're not my ICP. I like working with people that are really go out there and make bold decisions, do bold things. So I think that's first. I coach people that are in tech, that are in a leadership position in tech. So a lot of these people have started doing tech themselves. So they've started in a development role or software development or in infrastructure or security or somewhere else. And at some point they get promoted to a team lead, a manager role, and they grow up from there. And that's a whole new skill set. So they understand the technology very well. They know how to program. They understand infrastructure, a server. They understand security. They get all of that. But then suddenly they're in a leadership position where they need to manage a team. They need to engage a team, motivate a team. They need to hire people. They have stakeholders to manage. They need to be worried about their culture and everything else. And that's the part that I love doing with people, taking them through from that tech role that they used to have into actual leadership roles. So my ICP is somebody who's in a leadership position already, the person that I like to work with in a leadership position already, and really wants to accelerate their growth in that leadership. So that can be in a startup environment, it can be in a medium environment, or even in a corporate environment. But yeah, I think that's the kind of person I like to work with.
Mm-hmm. And that's a fascinating topic to me. What you just mentioned is, yeah, somebody gets promoted, they're the expert technically, and now they have to develop that leadership role. And is that the experience that you went through sort of in corporate world? Did you follow that same sort of, climbing the rung in that manner, or did you have more specific training on the leadership side?
So both, I think. I mean, at some point you get, and it's a very, in my case, it was a very gradual role. So, I mean, I was a hardcore technician. I have an infrastructure background. So I did like servers, data centers, all the technical stuff. And at some point you become a project manager. And as a project manager, you're somewhere in between, because you're still managing a lot of content. You're managing a project, a schedule, stuff that needs to get delivered. And you don't really, you have your own team, but they don't really report into you, because they're usually just project people. They report to you for 6 months or 9 months or a year, as long as the project lasts, and then they usually move on. It's a first step. I did that first. And then after that, in consultancy, you do get more people that actually report to you. And then when I joined JDE, I actually had a team of 20 people, and over time that grew to 75. And Yeah, I think it's been a very long journey for me. I've learned along the way. I've learned a lot along the way. I've made a lot of mistakes as well. I've had training. I've had quite a lot of leadership training about almost everything. I've had the recruitment training. I've had how do you hire people? How do you motivate people? Feedback training. How do you get feedback? How do you set goals and objectives? Almost everything, single thing that as a leader you need to do or can do, I've probably had a training on at some point in time. So it's been quite a journey. Yeah, absolutely.
And do you find when people go through that and they get promoted and maybe, the company's growing quickly and it happens fast, is there a big gap there between, the technician role and then what's needed to be an effective leader? And does that commonly show up?
Yeah, I do think so. And that's why I love helping people there, because especially if that growth path is quick. So if people quickly grow into that new role, suddenly a lot is expected from them. A lot of new things. They need to, like I said, hire people, manage culture, manage a team, tell people what to do, give them feedback. You're going to deal with people that are maybe not performing and need to step up. There's all these things that you suddenly need to deal with that you never learned how to do. In my case, even though it was gradual, it was still a very steep learning curve. But if you're just thrown in the role and don't really have role models or people around you that can mentor you, it can be an extreme challenge. And what people tend to do in that case, they know the technology and they tend to go back to the technology because that's what they understand and that's a safe zone for them because that's where they feel comfortable. And actually, that's not going to make them successful. So what's really going to make them successful is the leadership skills. And I think that it is a big gap and it can be a very steep learning curve. Yeah, which is why I love helping people in the journey.
That's really cool. And then you probably touched on this, but like what inspired you to say, yeah, like this is what I'm going to do, with this new company? Like, yeah, you kind of touched it, but yeah, why did you decide on that versus, the other areas you could focus on?
So I think let's start why I choose maybe entrepreneurship, because I know a lot of people like yourself choose entrepreneurship at a young age, right? And in their 20s, maybe around 30, when they even after university already. I actually made the decision very late in life. I was in around 45 when I made the decision to leave corporate life behind, leave my career behind, and actually switch to entrepreneurship. That was an interesting year. So at some point, I think it was around 2019, I decided that I was going to leave JD, the current company that I was working for. It just all started to feel repetitive. My job got, say, repetitive and not so interesting anymore. I decided to move on. I started speaking to a lot of recruiters about my next job. I actually found my dream job, something that I really wanted to do. It was actually in the United States. It was a really cool job. I probably would have gotten it. I went to the interview and I was driving home. And the only thought on my mind at that point was, this was my new boss. I'm going to work for this guy for the next 3 to 5 years. And I really just couldn't put myself to doing that. It just didn't feel right. And at that point, I just knew I'm going to stop right here. I'm going to stop following the rat race and that career and working for the next boss. I'm just going to do my own thing. If it's going to fail, so be it. I have a doom scenario in my mind. My doom scenario is that I need to go back and actually go. I'm in tech, so there's a lot of work in tech. There usually is. I need to go back and call some of these people and beg, ask for a job, and I'll probably give it. So that's okay. That's what I don't want to do. So entrepreneurship is really what I wanted. And how did I end up here? I already knew that I found coaching interesting. So after I quit my job, I already started doing a coaching training. So somewhere around 2021, I did this formal coaching training. I didn't actually intend to become a coach. I just did it because I loved doing it. Even before in my career, I had people come up to me and say, Mark, I've got this career challenge. I don't know what to do. Or Mark, I've got this challenge with this project or this person or something else. And can you help me out? I just love doing that. I just had no training on how to do that, which is why I did this coaching training without the intention of actually becoming a coach, just because I loved the skill and the mentoring.
And was that a particular organization that you did the coaching training with?
So I love to work international. So I Googled like who are the big international organizations that do coaching, certification, and training. I ended up with ICF, the International Coach Federation, which I think is one of the most well-known, renowned coaching certification organizations globally. And I found a local organization here in the Netherlands. I'm based in the Netherlands that do ICF certified training. So that's why I ended up there. Just because it's a certification that is not just known here in Europe, but also in the US and basically any country that you go to, ICF certification will be known. So that's why I did that one. And like I said, I started a software company, but that I did that for a year and a half, 2 years, and I still have a software company and still do it, but it didn't feel right. It didn't feel right for me for different reasons. One, there's too many out there. So there are so many small software houses out there. And in all of my discussions, I didn't feel I had a real USP, didn't feel unique, didn't feel that much different from everyone else. And when I do coaching, I do have that. I have all my years of experience. There's very few people with my level of experience, 30 years of experience in tech, that actually move into coaching and are really targeted to coach CTOs and people in leadership positions. And that's what I love doing. The second that I started the Maverick CTO, it's excited me. The whole concept excites me. Helping people, that excites me. I just love doing that.
Amazing. And like we talked earlier, and you mentioned this a little bit. Like, actually, let me just put the question this way: why is bold? So in the Maverick CTO, right? You're teaching bold and visionary leadership for CTOs. What does that look like? And for me, I'm quite unfamiliar with the CTO role. So yeah, what does that look like from the perspective of a CTO, to have this visionary leadership?
So the reason why I say that, well, I think everybody knows that technology is going incredibly fast in the world. And it's not on a linear growth. It's actually on an exponential. So the speed of which technology develops is exponential, and it's incredible. A lot of organizations are still left in I'd say 2010s, maybe early 2020, a phase where they think that tech is a service function, and it's just if somebody in sales needs something, they just go to tech, they ask for a HubSpot or a sales system or something else, they get it delivered, and that's it. I think that world is changing. Every company that I know, that I see, needs tech as part of their core business processes. Most of the business actually revolve around tech, and tech is a core part of their business. It's not seen like that. And a lot of CTOs, a lot of leaders in tech are stuck in that old frame where they are a service function. If somebody comes and asks for something, they'll be happy to deliver, but that's it. I think that's not going to make a company successful. I think for a company to be successful in the current market in 2024 and beyond, they actually need to focus on how tech can support their business and actually drive their business. AI is an example, but there are so many more examples of where tech can really propel a business ahead, but it requires a CTO to actually step up and have that bold vision. So I believe that a CTO or anyone that's in a tech leadership position needs to talk to all of the functions. They need to go and talk to a sales team, they need to go a marketing team, a supply chain team, an operations team, a finance team, an HR team, figure out what their challenges are and figure out how tech can actually help them address those challenges. So instead of waiting for someone to come by and order something, ask for something, I think they need to go and turn that around and actually make tech a driver for the company. And that requires them to be bold, take bold decisions, just get out there, talk to all of your fellow board members or all of the other departments, and actually have a vision for how tech can drive a company forward. And I really do believe that that's how tech, CTOs, leaders in tech can make a difference in success of the organizations that they work for.
That's fascinating. So what I'm hearing is that you're teaching them how to take a proactive role and say, okay, let's go out there, make the change, implement the change in technology, rather than just being in the reactive position, which is sort of the old mindset of, somebody's going to come to me with a problem or with a ticket and I'll fix it.
Yeah. And especially, people in technology, and this is nice and it's a bit of a prejudice, but I've been there and a lot of people are like that. They like sitting behind the laptops, right? It's a very comfortable place to sit behind your laptop, to work on the technology, to do other stuff. It's sometimes uncomfortable to go out and meet other people. I coach people today, and I had a coaching session, I think it was last week, and I told someone, just go out there and meet the people that you work for. There's people, and this is a big corporate, it's a global corporate, they have people all over the world. And I said, and there are people that actually make use of what you do. What you could do is just pick up the phone or schedule a meeting, just schedule a 30-minute meeting with all of these people and just try to figure out what's working, what's not working, where you can go and help them. And that's a very simple concept. And it was a very new idea to him. He never thought that I could actually go out and set up meetings with all these people. And I do think that that's the proactive approach that's going to make a difference. You can't just wait behind your PC for an email to come in, or a meeting request, or a ticket, or whatever it is that comes in. You've got to go out there and meet people.
Yeah, that sounds like a very simple change, but that would have a huge impact. And it's interesting that you say, yeah, it's people are more comfortable behind their computers in those roles. Do you think that like skills like this, like the people skills, going out having those conversations, do those need to be developed for people in tech roles? Like, can they be, or is it an innate skill that needs to be there, and you need to find the right people who can balance the tech skill with the people skills?
And from my own experience, they can be developed. If I look at myself 15 years ago, I was by no means a great manager or even a great communicator. If you put me on a stage 20 years ago, I would probably I'd be extremely scared to even give a presentation, get in front of an audience. Today, just put me in front of a room of 1,000 people and I'll be okay. So I think these are skills that can be developed over time. It takes time. There's also a lot of tools or tricks and techniques that you can use. I mean, I do a lot of job interviews, and there's a lot of models and frameworks and ways to do that you can get more comfortable and do that properly. The same with giving feedback, the same with setting a culture for your team. There's a lot of skills and tools that you can learn to do this better. So it's a skill that you can develop and need to develop. So I think in tech, as a CTO, you have a very deep technical skill, which is good, but you need to develop that other skill as well. To be completely successful, you need both. You can't rely. I also don't think it's good if you're in a tech leadership role and you only understand people. You need to have a very deep understanding of the technology, absolutely, the tech stack of the company, what's possible, but also the people side of things. And only that combination of both is going to make you successful. Yeah.
Okay. Very, very interesting. And then, so say you're working with a CTO, and they're developing these skills and whatever's missing in the gap. And then when it comes to, the visionary aspect, they're, creating these new ideas and innovating. How do you help them with that process? Like, sort of, the creative process that's required as part of that role.
So good question. I'm a big fan of, we talked about this, Vivid Vision, right? Which is a book by Cameron Herold. And it really talks about a future vision that is more, you have all these company visions that are one-liners that nobody understands and nobody can explain what they really mean, the one-liners. He talks about having a detailed description of the future, where you describe the future as if it is today. And I love that concept of a vision, because it really tells you where you want to be, what it feels like, where you live, what company you work for, what office you go to in the morning. It really talks about what your personal life or the company, because he describes it for both, can look like in the future. I'm a big fan. I always tell people to go read the book. But for the people that don't want to read the book, I do have a small guide that I developed myself, which I use in my coaching. And it's a very short guide. It's a small vision exercise where I do people just explain an exercise where people can write down their vision, and from their vision take it to very concrete goals, what they can do next. It's actually something that's available. If people are interested, they can send me a DM on Instagram. Just send me Mark Wormgoor on Instagram. Send me a DM with the vision, and I'll be happy to share the guide. And it's a very short guide that I use in all of my coaching. So yeah, that's what I do.
That's great. So actually writing it out and saying, this is what we want in the case of the company look like in 3 years, and that sort of stimulates the creativity and the ideas to make change. And I've also read that book, and it is really great. It's so much better than the one line company vision statement that nobody contributed to and nobody really understands. So that's really cool. Yeah. Can you talk about like what's sort of been, or maybe this way, what's one of the biggest challenges that you see CTOs facing, especially when they're moving into new roles and greater responsibilities?
So I think some of the biggest challenges is that technology is incredibly complex, right? And there's more and more technology available every day. I follow these AI newsletters, and there's at least one new AI model or tool or application out there every single day. It's next to impossible for a CTO to understand what's out there. So I think, first of all, that's one of the problems that they have. it's impossible to understand what's technologically possible, what tools are out there, what frameworks are out there, what AI models are out there. I don't think anyone can keep up with what's happening in the world. So I think that's the first challenge as they grow. The second is that they are working with salespeople, business people, marketing people, supply chain, finance, operations, like all of these other people that have an even narrower, smaller view of what's possible with technology. So the role of a CTO, I believe, is to actually get up on their soapbox and go talk to all of these people and advocate what is possible with technology, how much faster the company can go and grow with what's possible in technology. And on the other side, they need to have the team that's capable of delivering that. And in terms of AI these days, that's really hard because you need to find people that really, really understand that technology or have a network outside of the company, because it's also okay to hire consultants sometimes or hire experts from the outside to bring in those skills. But bringing both your business and the challenges, the company that you work for, or that you're part of, the challenges that they have in terms of growing top line, growing bottom line, growing EBIT, right? Reducing churn. There are so many different things that a company can struggle with, and translating that into what's possible with technology. That's by far the biggest challenge that a CTO has. And the only way to do that is the human aspect and the technology aspect, and bring that together. And I think these are the only people that are in the position that have the knowledge and the background to marry those two together.
Wow, that's a really great answer. And can I flip that question onto yourself? So what's been the biggest challenge for you with your new business ventures?
I think my biggest challenge is still marketing and sales. And that still gets you, we talked about those social skills, getting out to events and just meeting people at events. Was uncomfortable. I'm getting better. So these are the skills that you suddenly need to grow when you get into a business and entrepreneurship role. You need to get up to new people, meet them, talk to them. Getting better at that. That was hard. Getting on podcasts like this was very uncomfortable at first. Doing video recordings for Instagram or LinkedIn was incredibly uncomfortable the first time I did it. Even the first blog that I posted was 4 years ago. The first time that I had published, I was incredibly scared just by publishing something on the internet. And I think this is also the part of being bold. You need to do new things. You need to do things that are hard, that are a bit scary, that even if you see other people do it, maybe are very scary for you still, and just keep doing things that are hard, that are scary, and that are difficult. And it's the only way that you're going to grow yourself as a CTO, as a leader, or even as an entrepreneur. It's too easy to get stuck in what's comfortable and what you do today. And pushing yourself every day to do hard things, to do bold things that are difficult, that you've seen other people do that scare you. I think that's the biggest thing that you can do. And also for me, and I push myself, I say, if not every day, then at least every week, to do something that's uncomfortable for me. I just hired, for example, I started doing more social media video this summer. I've recently hired a social video editor, and she comes in and she records. We record videos together. The first time that I published a video of myself, horrible. And actually now it's okay to get on camera and record these videos. It gets easier over time. But these are the hurdles that you need to get over and get through just to grow yourself and be better.
Absolutely. That's great. Yeah. Do something uncomfortable every day, if not every week. That's excellent advice. And then on the flip side of that question, what's one of the greatest, successes or victories or, positive outcomes you've seen since you've been running your business?
So at first, it was hard. The first sale was incredible. So the first time that somebody said to me, Mark, let's go and do this. Let's sign a contract. Let's go on board. That was incredible for me. The first time that I didn't sell my own time, that I actually had like I said, I have a couple of software developers in the Philippines, that I actually got somebody to make use of my software development services. The first time they signed up for that, which wasn't selling my time, but actually delivering a service to someone, that was incredible. And I think that's the most exciting thing that happened over time. And there have been downs from there as well, when people have actually canceled their contract. That happens for good reasons or bad reasons. But I think the new contracts, the sales, but even getting up on stages, I now get asked next week, for example, I'm doing a CTO with a very big US company. We're doing a CTO roundtable in Amsterdam for 25 people, and it's only CTOs. And just the fact that we can organize things like this, I can get up on stages and host people and just share all this information with them. So cool. In 3 weeks, I'm doing a CIO event. So there's a big CIO event in Brussels, and I got invited to speak there. So these are all the things that I actually get asked to speak, and I just love sharing my experience and my knowledge with people. So yeah, I think the new contracts, the new business, the new customers that I can help and really help, and also the people that I coach. So I'll give you an example. I'm coaching somebody, and a couple of weeks ago he said to me, Mark, and we just started, Mark, I've made more progress on my personal goals, my development goals in the past 2-3 weeks that we've been working together than I have in the past 2 to 3 years. Just because we're now together, you're asking me to put goals on paper and to do the work. And of course, he's doing the work himself, but I just love getting responses like that. When people tell you that they've made so much progress in just a couple of weeks, it's just really rewarding.
Amazing. Yeah, I could see that. That'd be immensely rewarding. That's really great. And we talked about this a little bit before. So what does your social media strategy look like now? You talked about, you're doing the videos. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah. So basically, I've learned so much over the past 25 years. And what I like about social media, and the same with the blogs that I publish as well, I love how it forces me to translate what I've learned into an actual lesson that somebody else can use. So it's a whole different way of thinking from I've learned this and I can apply it myself to I've learned this and how do I now go and explain that to somebody else so that they can actually go and use it. So I find it very useful, the way that it forces you to think differently about the things that you've learned. So I try to share basically everything that I've learned over the past 25, 28 years with people on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I sometimes do videos, but it's more written as well. And on Instagram as well. I try to do better videos because I believe the more people I reach with the stuff that I've learned over the years, the more people I can help with that. So it forces you to make sure that the content is not just okay, but it's excellent. I hired a social media video editor, I told you. And our strategy is just to get 1% better with every video. We started, and I think the first video, within a couple of hours, I got a message from someone that I know, someone that's in the same coaching group as I am. And he said, Mark, that video was just absolutely excellent. It was just so much better than everything you've done before. So, and I think that's, again, growing yourself, just make sure that you grow 1% every day, same as doing the hard things every day. I just love sharing. I love teaching. And the more people I reach, the more people I can help. And I think the bigger the role of a CTO gets accepted in companies. And if I can contribute to that, I love doing that.
Awesome. And that's like our mutual coach, Dan Martel, says is if you're doing it right, then the free stuff that you're giving away will help more people than you ever do in your own coaching. And so that's really great that you're able to share all that experience and you're just putting it out there for people. And then do you do this on your personal channels or on your company channels? So is this more like a personal branding or strictly coming from the business face?
No, it's for me, it's really personal branding because it's the stuff that and also as a person. So as a person, want to share with the world. So I do my personal branding. I do that on Instagram. I don't even have corporate accounts. So on Instagram, it's just me. On LinkedIn, I do have corporate pages, both for Tairi and the Maverick CTO. But I share almost everything from my personal accounts. And if I think it's relevant to one of the companies, I'll share it on their page. Now, but this is really me talking. And I do think that's important as well. We're living in an age of AI and all these Zoom meeting and team meetings and all this online stuff. Human connection becomes more and more important. So showing up as a person, right? As Mark, showing up as Mark, being authentic, being me, I feel is more and more important every day. Standing out from all the AI generated stuff, pictures, videos, whatever is out there, and actually showing up as a person, as me, is incredibly important and gets more important every day. So always me.
Excellent. Here's one for you. And I didn't ask you if you have any books, but if you were to write a book, what would it be about? What would the title be?
So it's not a book yet, and maybe it's going to turn into that. But I've already started putting together a lot of my experience it's in a Notion site at the moment. I call it the CTO Compass, and I call it that because I think it's a compass that people can use. And it really covers everything from vision and strategy to hiring to culture to also cybersecurity and then some of these other topics. And it's by no means a book because it's way too short. But I think if I were to publish a book, I call it probably the CTO Compass. Unless an editor feels differently, we can talk about it. But that's the one that I want it to be. And actually, the Notion page is something that's already out there. Happy to share that one as well. So if people are interested, they can either reach out to me on LinkedIn or again on Instagram, Mark Wormgoor. Just send me a DM, CTO Compass, and I'll be happy to share that with you. And it's a starting page. And every day that I talk to somebody, I have a coaching conversation, I think, oh, there's something that I need to go and add back to the CTO Compass. I just go and add it back in there. So it's something that continuously evolves and grows. I started it before the summer, and I can already see that it's evolving and growing. So that's probably the book I publish. And who knows if that's going to happen? I have no idea. But maybe over time it gets extensive enough that I'll find the time to go and turn it into a book.
Yeah, that sounds like a great title to me. And then we're getting low on time, so I'll try and shorten this question, which is usually long. Can you point, sort of looking into the future, 5-10 years ahead, sort of in your niche and in your specialty, working with CTOs, what's maybe one of the biggest new developments on the horizon that's going to have a big impact in the role and how things are done?
Yeah, and that's, I think, the future. If you would have asked me 2 years ago, I could not have predicted where we are today with AI. I think a lot of people couldn't have. So I think that's the first thing. Technology is moving so incredibly fast that in the past, you could probably predict 5 or 10 years into the future. That's becoming more and more difficult. If you see the speed at which OpenAI and some of these other companies are developing, I have no idea where that's going to end. And I don't think anyone does at this point. Yeah, I think that's the best guess for everyone. I do think that makes life for CTOs difficult because every single board, every CEO is saying, what can we do with AI? And that's a very difficult question to answer. And that's where I do think, so on the one hand, CTOs need to go more in depth on the technology side, on the AI, understanding what's possible, reading up on that. And it's very difficult keeping up with what's happening in that world. But I do stress to every person that I talk to keep up, read the news every single day, the tech news, read up on the new AI models. If you can't tinker with them, you can't play with them, at least read and try to understand what they do. So I think that's one. You need to go deeper and deeper on technology because it's getting so complex. The other part of that is that the only way to be successful in the future is, yes, you need to have that understanding, but also be able to explain it to other people, because the gap between, say, non-technical people and the technology is only going to grow. So that gap is going to widen because it's going to get more and more complex. The only way to bridge that gap is for a CTO to be able to explain to other people what technology does, what it's capable of, what's happening with the new AI models, what all these tools can do. So I do think invest in EQ, invest in social skills, in leadership skills, in everything you can to differentiate yourself from everyone else. Yes, so both of those. And it's going to be a hard time for CTOs and tech leaders because tech is going so fast, and you need to do both.
That's a great answer, and yeah, I think that's great advice. So hopefully any CTOs listening or can take that nugget and apply that. So that's great. So when you're training CTOs, you're helping them develop, across all these different sort of lanes and areas, and even like you mentioned with your one client on moving forward on personal goals. Do you get into personal, like, spirituality, religion? Is that part of their development? Does that play a role in your business?
First of all, I'm a very down-to-earth person. So let's start there. So it doesn't play a big role. But there's a however. So I do believe that a lot of these, and they're not, they're spiritual concepts. I do think they have a very practical purpose. So if you read, and I read a lot of these books as well, just to understand where they are. So to give you some examples, I mean, Eckhart Tolle he's an incredible guy, and a lot of people call that spiritual, but what he really talks about is just living in the now and being in the now. And that's, I think, a very practical and helpful concept. I was listening to a podcast where he was actually a guest on the Tony Robbins podcast, and I just love how those two worlds actually come together. Incredible podcast. If you can find it, Tony Robbins and Eckhart Tolle on one podcast. So it's very spiritual, but I do believe that that's also very practical. And the same thing with, there's a lot of people that believe in manifestation. I'm not sure that I believe in the very spiritual type of manifestation. I do believe that if you have a vision and every day you work towards that vision, there's a very big chance of realizing that vision. If you believe in your future vision, you work towards it, you put your mind to it and work for it every single day, there's a very big chance that it's going to happen. If you have a vision and only dream about it every day, the chance of it actually manifesting is very small. So also manifestation, by having a vision and working very hard toward that, I do believe that goals, most, if not any goal, is achievable just by putting in a lot of really hard work, and just having a proper plan, a vision, a plan, and just get to work and get stuff done. Yeah, I hope that answers the question. So yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, and that goes right back to the vivid vision, and you mentioned your client, getting those results. So yeah, having that focus, putting, like Tony Robbins says, where your attention goes, your energy flows, and making stuff happen. So that's great. And Mark, where can people get a hold of you? What's the best way to get in touch if they have questions, want to connect?
Yeah, so I think a couple of things. Best website, maverickcto.com. So that's the best website. It talks about the program. It's very interesting. LinkedIn, Mark Wormgoor, and Instagram, Mark Wormgoor, are the best places to find me.
Okay,
yeah,
perfect.
Just follow me, reach out, send a message, send a DM, and happy to get in touch.
All right, great. Well, Mark, it was a pleasure. It was a wonderful conversation. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Okay, thanks for having me.